I'm alive. So with you?
I am alive, I guess, too.
Yeah, I'm looking for a new crib, and I need a two-bedroom though. Yeah. How long you been at your house?
Um, Current house since 2016, November. So, what's that?
Uh,
Well, I'll be as long as I have. My son is old, so he's 4, I think. No, is he 5 now? Oh my gosh.
this is
No,
actually
he'll be
like
5 this year, probably.
2 blocks away from me. Uh, I gotta find a crib, man. Um, where's the filter at? How do I say two bedrooms? I don't know
Man,
where the filter is. What you say, man, for the
it's such
price?
expensive, yeah.
Um,
Oh,
how
that one's
much?
not so much.
I mean, compare it to Cleveland, yeah, it's a grip. I gotta be by the beach, man. That's the only way I can stay physically healthy, man. That's the only way. Else, I'm not gonna work out. I'm not. I'm just gonna play video games.
Hmm.
Like as long as the beach is there, I get out there. I do my run. I do my pull ups. I do my dips in the yard. Like if I don't have it, man, I'm just gonna like contract diabetes because I'm not gonna do anything but just eat crap.
Hmm.
What's this over here? I need a two-bedroom. Where is the? Okay, I'm about to just hop off right now. I,
There's not a filter at the top
yeah, I'm,
anywhere.
I'm I'm looking for it. I mean, there's a menu, tools.
I suppose that's similar nearby, but if you go back to a search, maybe a broader search, there'd be a filter.
Oh yeah, you're smart.
Maybe. I mean, it might not be too. It's been a long time since I rented an apartment.
It's stressful, especially when you have a deadline.
What does it cost to buy homes in that area or buy a condo?
For a one-bedroom, where I live at. Oh, okay, in my complex, I think a one-bedroom goes for about 700,000.
Hmm.
Yeah, my landlord asked me if I wanted to buy it. I'm like, no. There's so many maintenance issues where I stay at or in my unit. Yeah, I need this gamma squeeze for AMC, so I money's not a thing, and I can just say, oh, you want 10,000 a month for this over in Sunny Isles? Okay, it's whatever. We're up in Trump Tower, y'all. My address is Trump Tower. So,
Jeez.
in other news, I'm still trying to, I'm working again. Um, I say that like it's a sad thing. Um, so I still been squeezing out an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, trying to meet my quotas for my passion project. I think I told you that this rental service integration is probably going to be similar to that payroll system integration. Where initially I was like, yeah, it'll probably take maybe 2 weeks, and it took me like 3 months. I think, as I said before, I think this is going to do the same thing. I think I've been working. How long have I been working on this rental thing for? About a month so far.
Um, yeah, it seems about right.
Yeah. So
Well, maybe longer than that. It was before Memorial Day, right? Anyways,
yeah,
whatever.
I think so. All right. So here's here's a some update. Right. So now this is an example of. I'll do it again. All right. So you have these rentals that you could click on, and so like you click on Soundcast VG7, portable outdoor Bluetooth speaker, $35 per hour. Here's a summary, and then you can say add. All right, and
Mhm.
I added this little shopping cart up here, and it updates. I can go back, and it persists. And this is disconnected from the actual like um, inventory and rental item service because that stuff doesn't really apply until you check out. Uh, which maybe later on today or this evening, I'll I'll implement what it means to click on this cart, aka click on the cart. Probably you want to view the cart to check out and or edit the cart, specifically remove items from it with the option to check out and proceed to wait on a network of couriers that could accommodate uh, your cart items. So I'll wire this up to the checkout thing later on tonight. That might be a whole weekend for things that I don't know.
Hmm.
Uh, this code base for customer app, I don't, I don't like it, but it was my first like major significant like project or mobile app that I wrote in pretty much 90% F sharp. And so there's a lot of lessons learned that I carried over to the Courier app, which is a lot cleaner, a lot easier to work with and to like add features to.
Mhm.
So here's an example. Oh shoot, how come that's not working? Where am I at? Yeah, so like this is my landing page code behind. It's like 300 something lines. The actual view model is probably worse. Uh,
Hmm.
some of the stuff I'm not sure is even relevant anymore. Like I don't think this is relevant anymore. Um, yeah, let's just delete it. This morning I added this cart property,
Mhm.
and the interesting thing about it was that a cart. I'm curious. Have you built e-commerce applications? I thought that's what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's primarily what I've done. Well, some of
So, do you treat a shopping cart as something that's pretty much like a global instance or a singleton, or do you literally like pass that cart value around to different methods on different like pages or whatever?
well, there'd be a cart per user, usually building web apps. I haven't I haven't really built any apps where the cart well, I mean, I guess
Well, I'm talking about on the front end, right?
yeah, I'm trying to think of how I'd structure that on the front end or how I've structured it. Yeah, no, it would be for like a view app or like that I've built or like spas that I've built. Yeah, the cart's basically just a global spot in memory, I guess. So in Vue, we use like Vuex, which is a or I've used Vuex, which is like a central state management thing, and so there's a state in there, and you just update that state. But the cart wouldn't have many carts, I don't think.
Yeah. What's interesting is my attempt to accommodate uh, a, a global like reference to a shopping cart throughout the user experience of this app. Um, when someone like this is the rental details page, right? Which is this over here,
Mhm.
and so I pretty much just said when they click the add button over here, like see that updates it too.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I just say, hey y'all, they want to add an item, and I just raise the event, and I let my global instance um, go ahead and actually perform the update. And I don't know, it's weird because I'll show you what I mean. Where's my global? Hold up. Why am I typing in the editor? Hold up. Global. Yeah. So like ultimately, when I raise that event, my code behind is going to call this global dot update cart, and then it figures out if it's a new item in the cart or an existing item that you just need to increase the quantity of. Um, I don't know. It feels kind of weird and hacky, but it works so far. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, outside of that, I got let me stop screen. I got a phone call uh last week, kind of late in the evening, and I don't think I told you this because I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks. Did I tell you that like someone reached out and claimed that they wanted to partner with me?
No.
Okay. All right. So I what I do is I randomly approach food trucks that happen to be in my path, and I start interrogating them. And so this one food truck I approached, the guy was very helpful. Um, he kind of had like a dominant personality, so I had to like just stop trying to talk and just listen to what he had to say because he was talking a lot, and I just try to be careful just to listen instead of like, cause I'm used to doing most of the talking, right? And and so I told him like I was asking him about code compliance and like theoretically like I'm trying to take advantage of a loophole of getting food trucks to just be in the city lot, and even though that they can't legally be in a city lot to do business, what does that really mean? Like, does it mean that they just can't do pickups? Like, people can't approach these food trucks if they're in a city parking lot? You know, that you pay like $3 or $4 an hour, because you know why can't they park and just cook and no one can approach them? But you can go through the app and request a delivery. And so anyway, I was rapping to him about that, and he was strongly advising me to not attempt to work around the system that the city has set up, instead of like trying to be clever and go around the system and risk developing a bad relationship with code compliance, or whatever like stakeholders that work in the local government. Instead, just go to them, tell them what my plans are, and let them know that I would like to work with them, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything legally and in compliance. So that's what he recommended. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, if I tell them my plans, like I feel like they're just going to find a reason to deny me since they already have relationships with people, and I'm trying to disrupt that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm gonna do what he said. So I've been interrogating code enforcement agents on Ocean Drive. And they've been pretty helpful, but I still have yet to actually have an interview with a formal interview with one, so that I could tell them my plan, and so that they can tell me what I need to do or how they can accommodate me. And that's it. So I mean, I've been trying to call their office, but like I've been unsuccessful in getting and having them calling me back.
Hmm. Yeah, the government tends to be that way. But What if you get in there and they're like, no, you can't do that. It's you can't. Then you're like, damn it. Or do you just go, well, you say I can't, but
That's my answer.
yeah.
Just making sure that I don't put myself in a position to be massively fined as a consequence.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have deep investment pockets, that's a big fine would actually be pretty bad.
Uh, um, or just position myself where legally, as an entity, I'm not the one being fined.
Yeah, it's the business or whatever.
It's the contractors, the people fulfilling that need within that pipeline that may be out of compliance, but I'm not. I feel like it's kind of like being a kingpin drug dealer. Like I'm hands off, but I'm an orchestrator.
Nice.
So,
Well,
like,
cool.
so I mean, things are like as you see, things are slowly like molasses progressing.
So what was the story about being having someone who wants to partner with you?
Yeah,
Uh,
so he was saying that he has about 35 years in the food industry, and he started just going into his background, and he was like it's weird because he called me up, and I'm like I always answer the phone even if it's at night. So I'm like, Scott speaking, how can I help you? Whatever. He's like, Scott, you know who this is? I'm like, no. He's like, it's so and so. I'm like, no. we you approached my food truck over in Wynwood. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, what's going on? Hey, I after we talked, I've been giving it some thought, and I went ahead and looked you up on the internet, and I'm interested in working with you. Like, I don't know what it means when he says he looked me up on the internet. But he's like, I'm interested in working with you. Like, and then he started giving me his background, his industry experience within that particular space. And I mean, the call lasted about 10 minutes, but he said that he was going to be away or out of town for about a week and a half. But then when he comes back, we can talk and figure out what that means for him to work with me or partner with me. So, uh, yeah, I'll just send him the slide deck, and then he can butcher it and tell me what he can do and what he wants out of it, and then we could just take it from there. I'm still doing my masterminds too. Um, so
How's that
like,
going?
so I have like two of them. Like this one person in Texas, and then I have this Miami masterminds, which is like it's about a dozen people. Um, and so it's encouraging just because you interface with like-minded people and you no longer question like if you're really crazy or awkward, right? Because maybe you are, but like there's people that are facing the same patterns or challenges, and they're just trying to get out the rat race too, and they're done with being an employee, and they have their vision of how they want to do things with the remaining years that they have, or at least with the next 5 years that they have. So I mean, it's encouraging. A couple of them told me to hit them up in regards to my business plan, and naturally, I lost their contact information. I don't know how to do that. Like, is on Zoom, is there any way to look at chat history of a video session?
I think sometimes it'll like send it to you or email you, but I don't know if I don't know if there's a way to go back and like bring up a session and look at it.
Yeah, hold on, let me figure this out.
I bet the food truck guy looked you up on the internet, and when he finally found out that you were Dr. Walker and impaled painfully blunt, he was like, "I'm with this guy's a movie star."
I hope that doesn't show up until like probably the 10th page.
No, it's on like the second page. Your
Are you
IMDb
serious?
references, not painfully blunt, but like your IMDb references.
Uh,
Page 2. I thought I'd Google to see what comes up when I Google your name. You own the first page of Google, so I have to compete with a Sean Rakowski, who's some lady who lives somewhere. So she creeps into my space.
at least there's no like the official Scott Nimrod internet handle. Um,
The official Scott Nimrod.
ooh, hold up, maybe this is it. Mm, hold up, I don't understand. Hey everybody, this is my email address. All two of you. Yeah, I don't know how to get in to look at the chat history.
Hmm.
Tap out. Um, outside of that, work trying to trying to restrain my public opinions about feature branches at work. It's so contrary against my workflow, man. And in doing code reviews and realizing that whenever I do a code review for my lead, he usually brushes off almost every single item that I mentioned. Have you ever been in that environment where
No.
where like whoever is the lead of the project, because it's their code, like yeah, your feedback isn't really significant. I'm just gonna check this in anyway. At least that's the way I feel.
Yeah, I guess it depends upon what it is. Like I brush off comments sometimes just because not because I don't want to do them, I just don't want to do them right that minute.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Like,
talking
oh,
about
that's a good idea, but that's a lot of work to refactor that. So
yeah, I'm talking about like someone that is in a lead position that brushes off your feedback.
yeah, no.
Yeah. So like I've learned to just not care as much. And like, all right, whatever. It's documented.
Yep.
That's it.
Break. When someone says, "What the heck?" You go, I commented there.
Yeah.
So
And just the art of, because it's not like a voice that is providing suggestions or expressing concerns, just trying to be careful not to write something that could be interpreted in a condescending way. So it's kind of weird because it's like, oh shoot, I gotta. Someone wants me to review it. Well, I'm in the middle of doing something. Like I'm trying to be productive too. And so like by default, I just want to like, this is effed up. That's effed up. Why would you even do that? Like trying to restrain
yeah,
myself from doing that, and just always as a pretext saying, "Have you considered?" and then write whatever. So I don't know.
yeah. I gotta watch it with the rhetorical questions too. If you get around the wrong person, like I had one time in my last job where I asked a question in a pull request, and in retrospect, reading it, yeah, it sounded really snarky and well, I didn't mean it that way. It's like, but I got called out in Slack on it, and I felt pretty bad about it. But it was like, just focus on what the content was, which was this needs to change, but I
Yeah.
don't know. You got to watch how you frame stuff because it's so hard to convey emotion and mental state and whatever people, however they want to interpret your words, your text, the voice that you're using, the tone you have. It's impossible to control that.
Yeah, maybe I should pretext things of this would be more awesome if, and then just type whatever.
Yeah, this would be more awesome if, yeah, where you'd be really passive aggressive. This would be really awesome, and I would do it like this.
I'll just rewrite it. This would be more awesome if you just rewrote it.
Yeah. Usually if there's a change where I'm like, I'd let this go, no problem, but I'd rather see a preference. I usually preface it with like nit. So it's like a nitpick item.
Is that what
That
people
way
is that the term that people use
yeah, I think
in code
I
reviews?
assume nit is like nitpicky thing, but
Like here's one example. Like yesterday, no, early this morning. No, was it early this morning? No, I think it was yesterday. I saw this view model class, and it just had regions sprinkled all over it.
oh,
Regions,
ah, ah, no
and like,
region.
well, I mean, how would you even respond to that?
I would cry, I think. I don't know. I hate regions so much.
But in your code review, would you like take the time to express your personal opinion about it, or would you just let it go?
I would probably write a comment that says like nit. Would you please remove these regions. I hate them so much.
Yeah,
Please, please. Make it sound kind of beggy and that it
yeah.
for my own sanity because it sort of is. I don't know. Regions are just having to deal with expanding and
It's just
contracting them.
noisy, and it does
Yeah.
it. I, like I was saying, like, hey, regions are usually a sign of a noisy code base that has multiple responsibilities, or a noisy file that has multiple responsibilities. Um, Consider if this framework within this IDE supports nested files and use a combination of partial classes with nested files to express the specific responsibilities or areas that are being handled for this view model. And then he was like, nah, I like regions. I'm like, okay.
No, no. Like I'll use I shouldn't say that. I'll use regions if there's something about the class that's there just for like it's like boilerplate, but it's not really like it's if it's stuff that you really can just safely ignore as part of the class because it's just there to facilitate some sort of thing. Sometimes I'll hide that just to reduce the visual like
What,
impact of looking at a class. But
like a dissertation comment or something?
no, like I don't know, like maybe there's some constructors that are required for serialization or some implementation of something that isn't implemented, but it's not going to break anything. It's like you need to implement one method out of 10 on a base class or something like that for a thing to work. And you
Yeah,
only implement the one, but
I
you
would.
still have to have the others there. So
Yeah, I would just you. I'd rather. I mean, you pick your poison. I'd rather just have a separate file that's a partial class that has those constructors in it
yeah.
that just have regions sprinkled all over. Like it just looks nasty, man.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, C sharp looks nasty
It wouldn't be a
unless I
bunch of
write it.
it wouldn't be a bunch of regions for me. It'd be if I did use one, it'd be like one region at the bottom, which is something like a comment like ignore these or something like that. Or
Yeah.
boilerplate or whatever, but it wouldn't be sprinkled. I can't stand going through something and being like, oh, here's the properties section, and then expanding the properties section. That's the worst.
It's constructors, properties, and then methods. And of course, the public and private methods are all thrown together in the same
Okay,
region.
here's something. Properties. Do they live above or below the constructor?
And we forgot fields too, right?
Well, fields, yeah, fields generally live above the
Okay,
constructor.
so the way I model things are events at the very top. So you're if we're talking about C sharp,
Yeah,
your delegates and events are at the top. Then your constructor, then your properties, and then if we're talking about a view model, your commands come after the properties, and then your public methods, and then your private methods, which is
yeah.
another
And then your
thing that
static
drives.
methods at the bottom, right?
Uh, well, static. Well, I don't really care about that part. Like, as long as they're like thrown near the methods, then I'm okay
Yeah.
with it. But
Okay.
something that irks me, something will come second place, and we'll revisit like what your recommendation is for like the structure or the top down. But something that also like I don't like is when people declare methods or well, yeah, when people declare methods private, I can't stand it. You
Why?
probably do it
Yeah. When there's a bit of shared code that needs to exist between a few things, but
because private is the default, and so like
oh,
when to it makes sense maybe, and of course it's like the opposite. And is it the opposite? It's there may be some differences in F sharp, but in C sharp, like private is it's the default. It's already implied, and so when you want something to be exposed to the universe, then you go ahead and you be explicit about this is public, but everything else is assumed to be private, right? Except for when you're declaring the class itself. I think the class is internal, right? And so I just hate when I see people declare like member variables and methods private. And it's like, well, just omit the private part and just declare that you have a method or a member variable, and that's it. Like, why do I need to? Why are you telling the compiler something that it already knows? And like, you're just adding noise to an already noisy programming language. So
yeah,
they don't
I
like that
don't get
either.
it.
They just no, I want to be explicit. Well, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I am too. It generally feels weird to not have it, because there creates a sense of continuity when you have it, if you have public and private. Because, like, if you think about it, then the omitted ones, it's, you know, int value, whatever. But the public ones are public int, blah blah blah. So it creates some discontinuity between the actual listings of things that you have. So adding private to be in par with public or protected or whatever, um, it just fits stylistically in with the same shape as.
Well, public and protected, but private, it just means it's an implementation detail. That's the way I view it. And if it's an implementation detail, like
What I'm saying is there's an aesthetic quality to it of having some things that don't look like the others, I guess. Um,
I I guess I wish the lint tools would just mark it as this is not necessary. This is redundant, and it is. It's redundant.
well, there's probably a setting out there to do
Yeah.
that, but
Now, what was your how do you structure your declarations within the class?
uh, pretty much the exact same. My big question, or the point of contention, or whatever, that I ran into in the last maybe 6 years that I hadn't ran into prior, was that I'd always, when I first started programming, I put properties above the constructor. So it'd be fields, properties, constructors, methods. But then, I don't know, this last gig had them below the constructor. So I switched to doing that. And now I'm finding that there's other people that have this same kind of, like, that's not even the accepted way necessarily, because there's some people who put it on top. So I'm trying. I don't know which is the correct. What's the way? But
I think the constructor needs to always be the first thing you see when you open up a file. Like it's how you're setting up that session.
yeah, it kind of makes sense to put it at the top or near the top after the fields and stuff like that. Actually, I don't know why we put. So if you have like backing fields for a property, I don't know why you would put them, um, so far away. Actually, come to think of it, I don't know why we group by the type of thing it is, like a property, method, whatever, instead of grouping by like related sets of properties.
So I mean, my my member variables are always sitting on top of my properties, right? So you have a backing
Yeah,
field, and so it's always with the property that is supporting. Like if I'm doing like a notified property change, or hence data binding, right?
yeah. Well,
Um,
if you had like a property with a backing field and then two methods that, incremented or decremented it, let's just say. And like logically, those things all function together, but two are methods and there's two methods of property in a field. Like, why wouldn't you just group those all together in the file? Because it like I feel like when you group by that, like, operation or whatever, it signifies better to you when there might be an opportunity to extract, you know?
yeah, I can see that point. The only thing is, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It just means that now you have member variable, property, method, member variable, property, method, member variable, property, method. And so I would argue that, okay, yes, you put things together that tend to change together, right? That that makes sense. But now, and if you're looking at the file without the IDE tooling, now you don't know. You have to scroll through the file to see what behavior this file exposes, right? Hence public methods. And so I don't know. It's kind of like pick your poison. Um, I'd rather have all my public methods grouped together so I could quickly see what this class does, that clients can tap into versus having to scroll every like 200 lines to see what the next method is that's declared public. That's just me. Like what you said
Hmm.
is, I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's those. Actually, I mean, this patterns exist in this way, like across. So like even at the file level, like, like we organize by controllers rather than by the features that the controllers are operating on.
Well,
Or view models. There's a folder for view models instead of a folder for
here's my thing.
some particular feature.
Like there's a decision made, and I'm not bashing. I'm just stating.
Mhm. It's a fact.
I'm just stating it. Is like there's a decision made that we're going to group view models and views in the same library, and I'm like, I don't like that. And like, well, it's easier to navigate, and I'm like, yeah, but because we're throwing everything in the same library, it's easier to hack things that really shouldn't be hacked together, and also it's going to be it's going to be more challenging to test because now because you want to test this library, and most tests you just want to test the business logic or integration logic, meaning like the data gateway in addition to the controller or the view model. Now this test requires all the UI dependencies, right? Because we threw these view models or controllers inside the actual UI framework library. of this solution. Hey, gambler. And
It-
they're like, yeah, but the trade off is worth it. I'm like, okay. And now, like, we have conversations about how do you, how should we trigger a page transition or navigation, right? And it's like, well, the simplest way is we could just do it in the view model. And I'm like, well, you could, because you could do that, but a view model is not supposed to know anything about UI. But it's easy to do now because we have the two of them in the same library, right? So it's stuff like that. I don't know if you're following what I'm saying, but based on what you said about like separation of concerns for files, I think it's the same thing with libraries. Like if you don't apply a single responsibility to libraries, then you're going to get yourself in trouble with people that need to get things done. And the consequence is development taking longer and longer because of hacks and tight coupling that really should never have been permitted given architectural decisions. So,
yeah, well, yeah, I suppose I could see it either way. It's because you could lose. I mean, the cohesiveness of stuff. When you organize by like the architectural element rather than like the feature. Like now you're scrolling around the page or the solution trying to find all the things that fit with this one unit. Whereas if you put them cohesively together in one place, they're all there. And if you want to remove that feature, you just delete the whole folder and clean up the references. I don't know. I could
yeah, I
see
mean,
it both ways. Yeah.
that's what solutions folders are for. Like I could create a solution folder called domain XYZ, and then I could create a project called XYZ UI, and then create another project called XYZ Data Gateway and throw them in the XYZ folder.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the way I would do it. And I don't have to, and I just reduce the the amount of hacking that could occur. Like every project is about reducing risk, if you ask me. Testing,
Yeah.
design, all that reduces risk. Because if it's a big enough project and there's enough money that goes around and then the budget is now questionable, like people are going to work the system in order to get done whatever they need to get done at the expense of maintainers moving more slowly. So
Hmm. And
that's my personal opinion.
I need to submit a feature request to the C sharp team. I think I want to get a way to uh, declare a class or like a member on a class um, internal to a namespace instead of being internal to assembly. So like if you had let's say a namespace and you wanted to define a type in C sharp that has to be constructed in a namespace or by something else within the namespace, um, but then can be constructed within that namespace. So you have like a relationship you're trying to enforce. There's no way to do it um, without doing like an external library
Yeah, I think their argument would be, well, why don't you just create a library that models the namespace?
because I don't want to. uh,
And this is why C Sharp is what it
yeah.
is today.
Well, no, but the thing is that it also assumes that you want to allow within your library, like if you have consumers in your library and then outside your library, like that you want to give them the access internally to the library, those options, right? Um, it would
You,
enable you to do some of the like,
you still
uh,
you still have. I mean, in a way, this is already covered. So you have internals visible to attribute. Are you familiar with that
yeah,
attribute?
yeah, yeah,
And so, like, what? How do I say this? What What pieces of code they normally would not have access to, they would because you
Yeah,
explicitly
no,
stated, right?
no,
And
that's not what I'm talking about though.
but that's a workaround, I thought.
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, that would just make it more loose instead of the way that I'd like to see, which is more tight. The
Sean Gambler says he uses that feature in Scala.
Yeah. Oh, you probably use it in F sharp too, because I
I have.
think that they have something like that. It may not be called namespace, but that's how I'd see it manifesting within Sharp. But maybe there's like a module, whatever. But
I mean,
how would you
modular is a namespace, though.
how would you define a class in C sharp that this class is the only thing that's allowed to construct another class, but you can use that class?
Visitor pattern.
The only way to construct it.
Meaning I would inject that class into the other class and
So
then have a.
you couldn't new up. I mean, you could. There's no way to do it that I'm aware of.
You said, how do you have a class that can only be created
Well,
by
I
another
shouldn't say
class?
that.
That's a factory, right?
Well, there's no. The only way to do it would probably be to have a class as an outer public class with a private met constructor, and then create the dependency as a child class to that. So if you have something, let's say you have a type called like valid name, and you have a validator service or something like that, and you want to make it such that only the validator service can construct valid names, so that somebody can't new up a valid name and then just pass it into a whatever. I mean, there's ways to kind of force it so that but if you wanted to make it so that this is the only place where you can construct this unit, there's no way to do it.
Yeah, Scott Blashan has a talk on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't know how you replicate that pattern in C sharp cleanly.
Um, Actually, let me share my screen. Of course, it's probably from like 5 years ago.
Yeah, but plus, I mean, you might have just a folder in your like a names in your namespace or whatever that you just don't want to expose all the inner details of how that module works, but it doesn't make sense to move it into its own assembly. Maybe logically it's in a different space, but it's kind of annoying that you have to put it into assembly just to
Because
use internal.
you're talking about a smart constructor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Is how do you implement smart constructors nicely? I mean, you could make it so that you have a static method on the class itself where you have to pass in the thing that would construct it, which means that it's forced to have that relationship. But I just think it'd be cleaner to be able to say like this class can only be constructed within this namespace, and then having like a facade that sits over it that does the stuff sans all the implementation details, which is the same reason why you might have an internal in another assembly. I just don't like the fact that you have to create an entire another project just to make it work. When it should be, I would assume that they could pretty easily add well, I mean, I'd assume what would the drawbacks other than trying to name the thing to have a storage class that's specific to a namespace. So this is namespace private, um, or internal to the namespace internal. I don't know. That's what I want.
Thanks for blushing.
I'm not sure.
Google should tell me. It should know what I'm trying to type. Scott. I thought it was spelled with a W.
Hey, so C sharp 10 is getting rid of the requirements to have namespaces in a block or like curly braces. So you can just declare namespace at the top in C sharp 10, and you don't have to indent things a level.
Yeah, here it is right here. So at least I think this is it. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you would have like a contact, and it would be like the only way to construct a like a verified contact or whatever, or a verified customer or something like that. The only way to construct that is to go through the verified customer service, or you know, customer verifier, and run it through that. That way nobody could new one up and use something without having first to go through and actually pass the requirement to validate the thing. But like I said, you can do that with constructors to a certain extent, where you just like you force the inputs to it on the deal. It's just, it would be nice if you could, like you do with an internal public relationship on an assembly, do that within a namespace.
I'm looking for the private declaration.
Maybe he doesn't include private, so that
He did, because I remember I used to practice it like 5 years ago. I just can't, because I think he would clear the type and then the smart constructor in the same in the same file. I can't. Yeah, I can't find it. So
yes,
like,
it's like having like an email address that is just a raw email address, and then you can through some provider you can convert that to a valid email address. But if you can just new up a valid email address, there's no like the code's not enforcing that you have to funnel it through a particular, like some external service to make it. And you can accomplish this with internal in another assembly. Like you could declare your constructors internal, the class is public, and then make it so that, you know, this class can construct it.
I mean, it's within C sharp. It's like, okay, what? How do you prevent instantiation? And it's using a singleton, right, where you declare the constructor private. And so I don't
Well,
know. Like I feel like
that doesn't make it a singleton. You'd have to put a static instance method somewheres, but yeah, that's how you would do it. Like you could technically do this if you had in assembly, if you put the verified customer email at like the root level, and then you had a private constructor on it, then you put the actual service as a subclass to that, so that it's got access to the private constructor. But yeah, I just want some more flexibility around those kinds of permission classes, so that you can specify namespace. I mean, even if you could specify within the class, that would even be not too bad. Um, like this is public to anything, um, anything that I'm a part of up to the class level or something. I don't know. That'd be ugly
um,
though.
I think C sharp needs to be laid to rest.
No, it's just gonna keep growing, man.
I mean, it's 2021, man. Like, why are they still working on it? I mean, I know why, because customers tell them to, because they don't want to evolve to something that's built from the ground up that addresses the issues of 5 years ago, let alone more than 20 years ago. Hence C sharp. But I mean, I get it. This is capitalism, and this is how they were making their money. A
Yeah,
whole bunch of people won't die off so that we can start using new languages. That's the problem. Um,
I don't know, man. I am looking forward to. I don't know. Well, when you're in it and you can't really get away from it, like it's nice when they add new features to it that make it like just remove boilerplate. Like this namespace thing in C#10 they're doing the global namespaces or whatever. And then the file scope namespaces. This is gonna remove a lot of just boilerplate crap.
mm, I haven't really looked at the latest spec or the latest features.
But I suppose with F# you're kind of spoiled. So
Well, I mean, I do C sharp at work.
yeah, Um,
the only thing that I'm doing in F sharp is my passion project. And if I don't do that, I feel like I won't be employable in 5 years when finally F sharp has like a quarter of the market in the United States. I mean, it's slowly coming, like really, really slow. I mean, but there's like maybe three opportunities in all of the United States. I get them on Google Alerts.
the
Of course, most of them pass on me.
there's global usings. Um, like I said, that's gonna be kind of neat because it's basically just so instead of having to have using on top of every whatever, if you use system in every single method, like
Yeah,
just put it or in every class, just put it in one place as a global, and then like it's these top level namespace
yeah.
and just not having to do that level of indent, man. It's gonna become F sharp eventually. Eventually, they'll just like we improve the type analyzer, and now you don't need types half the time, and it'll be like, oh,
You know what I've never understood. One is why, and then two is where is this applicable? Is the dynamic keyword.
I was thinking about using dynamic yesterday. Um,
I don't understand why it's there.
well, there is certain cases where having dynamic classes and stuff is helpful. It's just
I
that
mean, but what is it though?
what do you
Like,
mean?
what does dynamic mean?
It's like an expando type object. It's like you would think of an object in probably like JavaScript. You can just add, I believe you can just add properties to it and stuff like that.
Okay.
That will. And yeah,
Gambler says, also, I remember this. I remember the something along the lines from Anders Heisberg, however you say his name. If you start with a new programming language, you start at minus 1,000 points. It's really hard to overcome that. If you can reuse the runtime like CLR, JVM, you may start at minus 200 points, etc. But changing a language people already use, you don't start with minus points. Similar quotes from Brian Goetz for Evolving Java.
yeah.
I agree, which is why Idris hasn't taken off. You familiar with Idris?
You've mentioned it a couple times. I haven't really looked it up, but
It's a very different paradigm. I mean, it's a functional programming language, but just the workflow is very different. Just like Clojure's workflow is very different, right?
yeah,
Clojure is like the REPL, which I never really taken advantage of. But
I
with
did,
Idris, like I feel like, and I've messed with it maybe for like an hour or two. I have a book on it. Um, you start writing out your business logic, and then you let I assume the compiler expose the gaps that you need to fill in. So the compiler partners with you as you write the as you write the model, it starts exposing things that you need to fill in the gaps of. And
hmm,
yeah, I'm sure someone can explain it a lot more uh, or clearer than I can. But the reason I mention it is because it's just a completely different paradigm. And I mean, to your point or their point, like it hasn't taken off because it's alien and it's unfamiliar.
yeah.
There are use cases for consuming stuff which is outside your type system. I sometimes want that in Java. Is NetBeans still a thing? Not NetBeans. What is it called?
Eclipse,
No. I'm not talking about IDE. What was the enterprise Java stuff? I thought
Java beans or
is
whatever.
it Java
I
Bean.
don't remember. Java SEE. I don't know. I get confused as all hell by Java versions and that. Just the ecosystem in general. I hate the Java ecosystem.
Enterprise Java Beans.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that? Was that just a framework for like server side development? That was a question to Gamlor. Gamlor sounds like a comic hero name. Gamlor. Um,
Roll mag. Yeah, I don't know.
did you put your entire life savings on AMC?
No.
It says yes. Enterprise Java Beans is like a super heavy, clunky, enterprisey framework. Mm, That's a lot of adjectives. Okay. Super heavy, clunky, enterprisey framework. That sounds like .NET and Java.
No, Java. Like I think Java's considerably worse
Worse.
than .NET in terms of its
I mean, the .NET releases
clunkiness.
like every 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, I don't know. I just whenever I've gotten into how to do some Java development, it just feels like the tooling and the friendliness to the developer is just not there. Like you have to really know the ins and outs to be successful, and I don't know.
I think a rock star Java developer is a failure.
No, I
Like
don't think that wasn't isn't like Bob Martin, isn't he a Java
failure.
developer?
I want to code review what he puts out. I think I had this conversation with you. Like there's people that get paid to give talks, but you never see like an actual like code base that they wrote. That may not be true because I think Bob Martin he's talked about. See, I haven't listened to a conference talk by him in probably like a couple years, but he used to talk about
Because he was
open
canceled.
open source, yeah, some open source called Fit or Fitness, which is
Yeah, fitness. Yeah.
yeah, and so of course I don't think he wrote that by himself though, right? Um, yeah, I want to see his code, and I want to do a public like code review and post it on Twitter, in which I destroy him. And yeah, that's because he's just so much better at his career than I am. That I'm just being a hater. So
Hmm.
when was the last time he released a blog post? Because he was on like Eighth Light. Hold up, Eighth. Am I sharing my screen? Hold up.
No.
You need to put your life savings on AMC. All right. Where's Eighth Light? I wonder if they fired him because he got canceled. I don't even know how to spell eighth. How you spell EIGHGH? How you spell eighth? EIGH. Is that how you spell
Yeah.
eighth?
8H.
Sad. Sad. I don't know how to spell. Okay.
Obviously, it's just 8TH.
ATH.
Yeah.
I don't see him in. Okay, I've had him on my channel before. I thought his name was like Eric. I thought I could be wrong. Where's the blogs at? Okay, down here.
No,
It
he's
says,
at Clean. I believe he blogs at Clean Architecture.
well, he does both. Okay, what if I just say Bob Martin blog? Bob Martin, or maybe not even that. What- Uncle Bob Martin. How do I do latest? Let's see what within the past year.
Looks like he blogged something in March. Something for PHP. What is this?
Can you pass me the link?
It's just, well, blog.cleancoder.com. Oh, yeah. And you just look on the side there where the if else, that's the top newest one.
A few days ago, someone tweeted a question asking which of the following PHP snippets was better than.
Pairing guidelines. Oof.
Yeah, like I'd rather pair. than work on feature branches. Like I hate feature branches, man. It's the most counterproductive workflow that no one that 98% of people fail to recognize. I'm not a fan of it. Solid, bro. Solid. For years. No. Yeah, like I don't know, I mean, like to be clear, a lot of my practices stem from his conference talks. I respect him a lot. He just never responded to my personal like messages, and so now I don't like him anymore. Uh,
Alrighty. Well, I probably gotta get going here. I gotta grab some
Closure.
coffee before I get on to my call.
All right.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I forgot I have a job today. Okay. We'll catch up. Thanks.
Yep.
See ya.
Have fun at your job. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty.
See
See
ya.
ya.
Bye. Gamlore, how's everything going? I don't know if you took off already. Cool. You working on anything interesting? Are you ready? Did you get your COVID shots, or are you like me and you're holding off because you don't want to turn into a zombie, or you still want to have like you still want to be fertile? Okay. I haven't got any shots yet. I'm gonna try to hold off for like another 3 to 6 months. And if people are still having babies and they don't turn into zombies, then I'll probably go through with it. Uh, Harrison, I got both mine. I have killer cell service now. What's up, Mike? It's Mike, right? Harrison, how's everything going? Are you a Xamarin guru now, or did they put you in some other piece of the code base? All right, cool, cool. It's yeah, I'm doing Xamarin at my new job. It's I mean, I do Xamarin every day because I'm working on my passion project as well. Um, I don't even keep up with his latest Xamarin features anymore. Let me see. Uh, what version of Xamarin is out there? Forms. Oh, Xamarin Forms. I mean, I don't even think they if they do coming out with features, it probably. Am I still sharing my screen? If they're still coming out with features, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. I think Maui is the latest and greatest. I don't know if you're able to. Has no one has addressed what Maui does that Xamarin Forms couldn't. Like, I don't want to learn a new programming framework if it doesn't actually like address a problem that my current framework doesn't address. Like, have you reviewed Maui or anything? So far, no one can like answer this, and I don't want to learn a new framework if it doesn't do anything for me. Just to say, oh, I know this framework. If it doesn't make me more productive, if it doesn't make me more money, like, what, why am I going to take the next 8 weeks of my life to learn it? So, and Gambler says, I don't worry about zombies or babies. Oh, well, okay. That means you've given up on life if you don't worry about. I'm not going to say that. I got both mine and have killer cell. I think it's moving to something more like Flutter, where you only have one project and less native code. Is that what Maui's supposed to compete with? Flutter? No. Okay. Now I got to figure out what features Flutter exposes that Xamarin Forms doesn't. And Gambler says, well, most framework stuff is often fashion of the week. I probably still can't get decent desktop apps out of Swing. Swing is still a thing, or decent web apps with jQuery servlets. Maybe not sexy, but it works. Yeah, like, okay, like, what if I Google, hold up, share screen. What if I Google, I don't even know how you spell Maui. Is that how you spell Maui? Maui verse Xamarin. I don't know how to spell. Uh, what is Maui? I gotta see this. Medina 6 preview starting. No, 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 no. None in Maui is the evolution of Xamarin Forms, a cross platform mobile first framework building upon 7 years of experience supporting customers. Okay. So they they say that is the evolution of Xamarin Forms as if it's like the next version of Xamarin Forms. We're just going to give it a new name. That's. I feel like that's how they're framing it. Speeding up UI rendering, investing in consistent design systems, and extending from mobile to desktop. Okay. I mean, there is no desktop. People don't run apps on desktop anymore. For Xamarin Forms customers, think of this as the next major version of the same product you know today. For developers new to multi-platform development, we invite you to take a look at what we're doing to serve you. Since mid 2020, the core team has been focused on high impact issues and designed the new control architecture. With Xamarin Forms 5 representing the last major feature release before .NET Maui. The only work happening there are bug fixes. Xamarin Forms will continue to receive service releases through November 2022. No new controls are planned for this release. Our focus is being invested into the heart and soul of the product. We get excited about new features just like you. We are very pleased to see such a positive response to Xamarin Community Toolkit, which launched 1.0 alongside Xamarin Forms 5.0. All right, so what I take from this is that the reason to learn Maui is because they're deprecating Xamarin Forms. And so they're no longer going to be providing support for Xamarin Forms. Well, they said service, but it sounds like they're allocating budget resources for Maui, which means that they're not going to provide the type of quality support, customer service support for Xamarin Forms, and Maui is their new baby, and that's the reason to get off. Is if you want to have support, it's going to expire. Yeah. Oh, have you taken steps to learn Maui? Oh no, man! Like I've been pigeonholed in UI development, even though I've been like positioning myself to do cloud, specifically Azure. Like I want to I want to get away from this typical like 65 to $85 an hour doing Xamarin Forms, and I want to graduate to like 115 to 100 like $30 an hour doing Azure. I feel like they're not going to take me seriously until I finally release my passion project into the wild. and then give dissertations or conference talks on various patterns that I used. Yeah, translated. I don't. I'm done with front end development, man. The money. If we're talking about money, the money is in the enterprise. The money is building and maintaining and helping other people troubleshoot server issues. I think that's where the money is. And that's where I'm trying to be at. So, uh, if you don't have any other things to say, I'm going to hop off too, in probably like the next 60 seconds. I'm mostly working on back end stuff. You're working on back end stuff, but are you making back end money, or are you a full time employee and you just make the average? Not sure if there's money in it. Okay. Yeah. I'm I'm full time employee. Okay, that's probably a safe decision. I'm gonna. I wonder if being a full time employee within the next 5 years, if people, if there's infrastructure where people can get paid in crypto instead of y- government currency. Like I'm a full time right now for like 2 weeks, and I think if there were an option, I think I would just opt into getting paid crypto. So I don't know. This is me going scatterbrain before I hop off. I want nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Nope, nope, nope. Yeah, I've when I reinvested in it like a month ago, 2 days later it tanked. There's a police chief here in Kentucky that was trying to get paid in Bitcoin about 4 years ago, and if it was 4 years ago, he would have done well. 7 years ago, I owned 110 Bitcoins. No, no, no. I owned 118 Bitcoins 7 years ago, and I got rid of it. But whatever. All right, y'all. I'm hopping off. See ya. It was good seeing you again, Mike. And Gamlor, it's been real. You say you give my Swiss francs, and there goes the link to the. Why can't I select this? Coindesk.com, Kentucky Police Chief salary, Bitcoin. I'll check it out. All right, take care. See ya. Bye.